Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. And today I want to try something that I haven't done in a really long time. Sculpting. And when I say I haven't done it in a long time, I mean I used air dry clay about 5 years ago. And then before that, I honestly don't remember the last time that I sculpted or used clay at all. It was probably when I was a child and I played with Play-Doh. I think I have a good understanding of how shapes and angles work since I have to apply those in drawings. So let's see if this knowledge can translate from two-dimensional drawings to 3D sculptures. But now, here's the real question. What should I sculpt? Now, I think it's time to do something challenging. I think it's time to sculpt a Riolu. Oh, wow, this is super zoomed in. Sorry about that. Just give me a second to fix it. And there we go. Much better. Sorry about that. But as you can see, I am using Super Sculpey for this project. I have a reference for Riolu to make sure I get all of the details. So I started with basic shapes. I made a sphere for the head, and then I started with a teardrop shape for the body. And then looking at the reference a little bit more, I made the body into more of a rounded triangular shape. My initial idea for the sculpture was to make it into a chibi style. I thought making his features really round and large would be easier. So I started making his thighs really round. I made sure his legs were kind of round and I was going to make them really small. But as I went on, I didn't really think that worked. I didn't think this would actually look like a Riolu with the idea I had in my head. So I started to make him look a little bit more realistic, I guess you could say. Riolus aren't real, so it's kind of hard to say what style I decided to go with. So his legs are a little bit longer, they're a little boxy. I made his legs using rectangular shapes. There were about 3 different parts to his legs that I sort of just slapped together. I don't think he will stand by himself, but he can do a little walk. So the next part are the arms. I just made long ovals that were skinny at the top and then wider at the bottom, and I smoothed it into his body. But I didn't really like the way that looked. So I took one of the tools and I made holes in the sides to make joints. And I started to do the same thing to the head. And then I just made a little ring for his neck thing. I'm not gonna lie, the tail was pretty tricky. Now, is it just me or does the tail look a little bit like the Pokemon Snivy? Is it just me? It might just be me. It's straight and curvy at the same time, and I really wanted that sharp corner, so I spent way too much time trying to get it perfect. Time to poke the booty. So now I am going in and adding some more details. So the first thing I did was make a ring of clay around where the blue and the black parts of his legs meet and made it look like he's wearing shorts. And then I took this tool that kind of looks like a toothpick and I cut lines into his hands so that they look like paws. And then I decided that I want his arms to bend just for fun. And then I took straight pieces of clay and I tried really, really hard to map out how that zigzag pattern looks on his chest. It was really time consuming. It took a really long time and I had to keep going back and make sure that all of the lines were still defined and not blended in with the rest of the sculpture. And then I just started to see how everything fits together. I started to see how the arms looked, how the tail looked, how the head looked. And yes, I did have to remake some of the holes because as I was smoothing things out, some of the holes and the details got smoothed over, so I had to go back and redefine a lot of details. The face was pretty tricky too. I started with the nose, which was a triangular shape, but the top was straight and the bottom was round. So I had to cut the top off to make it really straight. The eyes were the hardest part of this by far. First, I tried a technique I've seen in other sculpting videos where you make holes in the head and then make circles for the eyes. Then you place clay around the circles to make the eye shape, but that didn't really work out. Next, I tried taking small pieces of clay to map out how the eyes will look, but that didn't really go well either. So I just took that same clay I was using for the eyes and made them into little triangles for the ears. Then I started making the other set of ears. I guess he has 2 sets of ears. So these were long oval shapes, very similar to the shapes of the arms. And I just blended them into the head without making any sort of holes or attachments. Cut out a little triangle for the snoot. And then I took straight small pieces of clay and started mapping out the overall mask shape for the face. I thought this would be a lot easier than detailing the eyes first and then doing the mask. I thought this might help me figure out where the eyes should really go. And what I did was I left the outer part of the mask really defined and cut out and then blended everything inside of it. That way it looks a little bit more three-dimensional. So I took this cutting tool and made sure that the outer parts of the mask were really defined and cut out. So I was really concerned about symmetry for the eyes. So what I did was I made a circle using some extra clay and I traced it where the eye is going to go. And then I did the same thing to the other side so that they looked the same. Then I placed some small pieces of clay around the eyes to make this 3D effect. I'm done for now. I have decided to keep some parts separate and then I think I'm going to just glue the parts together once everything is baked. Because if I put everything together now, I don't think it's going to stay standing in the oven. So I have 2 holes, one on either side of the body for the arms, and then I have a tail hole for the tail. Then I have a piece that looks like a neck that connects to the head. So none of this is perfect. I have a lot of dimples in the clay. I did my best to get them out and to smooth everything, but it's really hard. I think I'm pretty happy with everything that I've done. So I am just going to put these things in the oven, let it bake, and then I will come back, assemble, and paint. Be right back. All right, so it is the next day. That's why the outfits changed. Boy, did that take a long time. I'm just kidding. It took about 20 minutes for everything to bake. It was just late last night when I finished sculpting and finished cleaning everything up. I wanted to go to bed because I had work today. But now we are back and now it's time to show you how everything looks now that it's all done. Something happened. His ear fell off. And it's not even that it fell off. I was testing to see if it was done because it was really hot and I was dumb and I decided to try to lift the ear to see if it would bend and it just snapped off. That was a really dumb thing to do. So don't do that. But everything else looks pretty good. The body won't stand up by itself anymore, which was to be expected. So I think I'm going to see if I can make a base to put this on so that he can stand up without any other assistance, like without leaning on anything. But we'll worry about that later. When I fix the ear and I put everything together, I have super glue. I have all of my paint, oops. So I think the easiest thing to do is to paint first. So I will go ahead and do that. So for the gray parts of Riolu, I had to mix together two colors. I mixed together permanent black and neutral gray. Since the gray by itself was a little too light, so I just added a dash of black to make it just a little bit darker. I was pretty surprised. I actually had a blue that matched Riolu pretty well. It's this pale blue color. Riolu has these two parts that are yellowish tan, the spots on the back of his legs and the ring around his neck. I actually had the perfect color for these. It was a warm gray. Last but not least, I used two more colors. I used titanium white for the spots on Riolu's arms and for his eyes. And then I use scarlet for his irises. And then I obviously used permanent black for his pupils. So while everything dried, I started making the base that Riolu will stand on. I just did my best making an oval shape that will be big enough for both his feet to stand on. And then I made a larger oval to go underneath it. I think this two-tier stand looks pretty good. Into the oven it goes. Now it's time to put everything together using Gorilla Glue. I realized that after baking the body, the neck that I made was a little too big to actually fit into the hole that I made for the head. So I tried sanding it down, but when that didn't really work, I ended up just taking the cutting tool that I've used before to make the hole just a little bit bigger. Once the base finished baking and it was cooled down, I painted it white since I had some leftover paint. I also thought white looked nice with the overall color palette. And then I glued him to the base. Here it is, all done. I am so excited. This is way better than I thought I was going to be able to do. I thought this project was going to be a super fail. I'm sure there's a lot that I can do better next time with practice. I'm sure I could make something a little bit nicer looking. But I have to admit, this is pretty good. I can't wait to take photos and show people. I have a friend who streams on Twitch by the name of Doug the Riolu. So I am just going to give him this sculpture so that he could use it for the background of his streams or put it somewhere for decoration. Really happy that this turned out well. I'm gonna keep practicing. This was actually a lot of fun. I do think that if I had the different color clay, it would be a lot easier and it would definitely look a lot cleaner. All right, so that's gonna be it from me today. Let me know what you think of the sculpture in the comments, and if you have any tips or tricks on how to use clay, what best practices there are, let me know. I am still learning and I am going to keep practicing, but any help that I can get will be greatly appreciated. Make sure you check out some of the other videos that I have of me trying out other crafts, and let me know what you think I should do next. And until I see you guys next time,